What makes a ghost story work? We've all felt that chill run down our spine from just a few perfectly chosen words. Well, here at The Explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the hidden blueprint that makes these tales so darn powerful.
Okay, just listen to this for a second. A delivery driver drops off an order at 2 a.m. The note says, "Leave it outside." As he turns to leave, the door slowly creaks open, and the same order is already sitting inside. Kinda gets you, right? It's tiny, but it just packs in this incredible feeling of dread. It works, and it works fast.
So how does it do that? What's the secret sauce? To figure that out, we really need to look under the hood of the story itself. And we're going to use a few tools from a field of study called narratology, which is basically the science of figuring out the deep structure of stories and how they mess with our brains.
Okay, let's dive right in. Our first tool is all about separating the what from the how. It's a huge distinction that storytellers think about all the time, but most of us never even notice. The difference between a plot and a story.
So think of the plot as just the skeleton. A driver arrives, a door opens, he sees something impossible. That's what happened. But the story, the story is the whole body. It's the skin and the muscle. It's the fact that he's alone. It's 2 a.m. It's that creepy house. You see, the plot just gives you the facts, but the story is what makes you feel that cold knot in your stomach. It's the reason you care. All right, for our next tool, we're gonna have to jump in a little time machine and head way back to the 1920s. See, there was a researcher studying these old folk tales, and he found something that would totally change how we look at stories forever. He basically discovered a hidden grammar inside of them.
And that guy's name was Vladimir Propp. He was digging through hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of Russian fairy tales. And he noticed something kind of wild. The characters could be different, the settings could change, the magic items were all over the place, but the actions, the core things that moved the story forward, were surprisingly, almost weirdly, consistent.
And this really gets at the heart of Propp's whole big idea. It didn't matter if a king gave the hero a magical eagle, or if a wizard gave him a flying boat. The characters change, the props change, right? But the core action, what Propp called a function, it's exactly the same. The hero gets a magical way to get from point A to point B.
So for Propp, a function is basically any action by a character that's actually significant to the plot. And get this, he didn't just find 1 or 2, he mapped out 31 of these core functions. And they tended to appear in a really predictable order, almost like a recipe for a story.
So what does this have to do with our 2 a.m. delivery driver? Well, believe it or not, even that tiny story hits some of Propp's key beats. You've got villainy. Now, it's not a dragon, but it is a violation of the laws of reality, which creates this deep sense of wrongness. Then you have mediation. That's the moment the driver becomes aware of it when he sees that duplicate order. And the driver himself, he fits one of Propp's hero types perfectly. The victimized hero. The guy who doesn't go looking for trouble, but trouble sure finds him.
Okay, so Propp gave us the little Lego bricks of a story. Now let's zoom out and look at the whole model. Our next tool examines the entire shape of the hero's journey, a pattern that I guarantee you have seen in countless movies, books, and myths.
The scholar Joseph Campbell is the one who really made this idea famous. He argued that basically all myths from every corner of the world follow the same fundamental pattern. He called it the monomyth, but you probably know it as the hero's journey. And this quote just nails it. The hero's journey is always about leaving the normal everyday world, crossing over into some place of wonder or terror, facing a huge challenge, and then coming back, changed.
And I know what you're thinking. How does this apply to a guy delivering food? But it fits like a glove. The common day is just his normal delivery route. He crosses the threshold the second he arrives at that weird house in the middle of the night. His ordeal is seeing the impossible, that duplicate order. And his return, it's that moment he turns to leave, his entire understanding of reality just completely shattered.
Now, it's really important to say that Campbell's theory isn't, a perfect, unbreakable law. A lot of scholars have pushed back, saying he might have cherry-picked the myths that happened to fit his pattern, or that the stages are so vague you could make almost any story fit if you squint hard enough. So, it's a super useful lens, but it's not the final word.
So, we've got plot versus story, we've got Propp's functions, and we've got Campbell's monomyth. What does all of this tell us about why that little 2 a.m. ghost story is so incredibly effective?
Well, it all comes down to this. That tiny tale feels so complete, so satisfyingly spooky, because it perfectly matches a much bigger blueprint that already exists inside our minds.
We don't need to know who Prop or Campbell are to feel it. Our brains just instinctively recognize the pattern of a complete story.
And that leads us to this newer field called cognitive narratology. It suggests our brains are literally wired for narrative. We don't just enjoy stories for fun, we actually use these ancient structures to make sense of the world, to process information, to understand our own lives. A story isn't just entertainment, it's a fundamental tool for how we think.
So, now that you can see the blueprint, you're going to start seeing it everywhere. I'm serious. In a news report, in a video game, even in the way you tell a friend about your day. These ancient patterns are the invisible architecture of how we make sense of the world. So the only question left is, where will you spot them next?